currently works as a senior business analyst for LPS New Zealand. Please welcome Kamaal.
Thank you, Stephen. It's a big subject matter that I want to discuss. So really, it's a journey, really. So I really, guys, want you to be patient with me. This could be a whole session we can spend on this alone. So my name is Kamaal, and I work with LPS, and I'm presenting business analysis in major transformation. So unlike the previous cases, I'm not going to be talking about one case. I've worked on a number of different transformation projects, and what I hope to do is really present you three methodologies that I found across all these different transformation projects that I've worked across that really where it helped me. So a way to start a journey, let's just take the quote from Charles Darwin. It's not the strongest that survive, it's not the most intelligent, it's the one that's most adaptable to change. It's all about transformation, evolution, the biggest change of all. Actually, that's not true. Charles Darwin never said this. This is a quote that gets propagated through the internet, and it's been perpetuated for a number of years, but it's been proven that it's not true at all. He never said this. This actually came from a management studies book. Surprise, surprise. So yeah, internet lied to you. I'm surprised, I know. But really what I want to do is start with and give you some of the disclaimer, just give you some fine print. I'm sure you guys can all read that in the back. But you guys have been reading all your updates to your privacy policy, so I'm sure some more fine print is not a problem for you. I'm just kidding. I want to preface on where I'm coming from. Really, I want to give you some background of what I did and what brought this presentation forward. So I'm going to speak more towards agile than waterfall, more less traditional stuff. I'm going to be talking about large established enterprise firms, and then I'm going to be speaking more towards technology and business. And then transformational projects, obviously that's what the key principle is behind what I'm presenting. But honestly, everything I'm presenting within these three methodologies, they can go across everything. You can be a startup, you can be, it doesn't have to be a transformation project, but I think these are the three most that helped me in my efforts regarding a transformation project. All right, so there's a preface. And as far as where I'm coming from and continuing that, I do want to let you guys know who LPS is. And maybe why I got invited to this. LPS does specialize in a number of different consulting and product services, and one of them is with transformation. And we do specialize that both in business and digital. So there's my quick plug. And then just some background of the different companies that I've worked with, collaborated with, and hence hopefully provide some truth to what I'm presenting here. Right? The thing about what it is about transformational projects, it goes across a number of different industries. It goes across a number of different companies, public, private, startup, whatever it may be. And I'm hoping that the companies that I'm sort of presented here gives you a great swath of letting you know that what I presented should be applicable to you, regardless of where you are in your organization. So transformation, what does that mean? We got automation, we got digitation, we got all this shun. Don't shun the shuns, all right? Shuns, transformation is probably one of the more bigger ones you hear about because it's comprehensive. It's more in the words you're seeing it now. Because the fact is that transformation is more on the forefront, especially when technology enables it. So if you're a VA right now, a project manager, and you're working on something that doesn't seem transformational, by truth, it is. It really is. So don't feel like transformation is just this phase and we're going to move on to the next big thing. Transformation is going to get bigger. It's going to become much more comprehensive across anything you may do across your organization. So as far as different types of transformations, you're going to come across a number of very different ones. There's either going to be one of these or maybe a whole slew of them. But the point is that transformation is big. It's going across the departments, and the fact is that major transformation is going to be very, very wide and dispersal. So, again, I hope my three methodologies are going to be meaningful for you. The way I want you guys to do is walk out of this room and find, hey, that's actually something we can use tomorrow. Great. I've actually walked away from this presentation feeling like I've given you something. So let's start. What's the first one? Set a perimeter. This is the most important thing. As you are as a BA, you may not feel responsible for it. Maybe it's more the project manager's job. But frankly, setting the perimeter is something you have to do. right? You as a BA are kind of doing the requirements gathering. You're doing that analysis to help trying to set that field. And with a major transformation project, it's a very easy culprit to fall into where you're changing everything. Let's just give you everything. No. So you want to set that boundary very early on. Set that perimeter, and it can be, the major transformation project becomes much more manageable. You really want to set that tone very quickly. So how do you do that? Most analysis. How many have heard of most analysis? No? You've heard of most analysis. I'm talking about the acronym, MOST. Yeah? Okay. Not many of you. So it's not a very derived use because probably you've heard of SWOT analysis or Moscow analysis, but I love this because it's a way of basically breaking down a task. You've got at the high level your mission, and then you break it down more and more and more, and it becomes ultimately a way of just culminating and making sure that everything you do, everything you've outlined, still bubbles up to that mission. Really, that's what it comes down to. Now, I kind of do a little spin on this. Now, this is much more traditional, but what I've done is taken the last two, strategy and tactic, and changed that to story and task. So that sounds much more agileistic, if that's the word I can use. So at the high level, your mission, your mantra, your banner. The thing is you as a BA, you may not have a say in this, but it's something you constantly refer to. So the way you should look at it is that your mission should be something that's printed up. If you got a project manager that has a budget to burn and you can print out a huge banner on the wall. Do it. Do it. Not just for yourself, but for your team. That banner, that mission should be constantly looked upon. And going to what I alluded to earlier with the CIO address, why are you doing something? It's the mission. If you can't refer to it and have a direct linkage to what you're doing with that mission, then maybe it should be questioned. Maybe it should be validated. Bubbling on down for that, your objectives. How are you going to get to that mission? Or at least, basically, what are the steps to get to it, right? Those objectives need to be outlined very clearly, very definedly. These have to be SMART. I don't know if you guys know that acronym, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, right? All that great stuff. You want to basically list out those objectives so it's very clearly written as to how you're going to get there. And the stories that culminate from that objective, right? That's the how. That's basically where you're going to write those stories and really kind of make a user, customer-centric view of how that story is going to be accomplished to get to that objective that is going to get to that mission. And then finally, your task. What are the very iota things that people are going to do? Is it down to the development level? Is it down to the test level? Is it much more customer orientation? Are we going to go out with interviews and things like that? So listing that out and bubbling it up and being cognizant of all this is exceedingly important. Oops. So if you build this right, this is what you get. You got your mission banner right at the very top, then you got your objective, and then you write your stories, and then you get your tasks. And this is something that you guys should do as an exercise amongst your entire collaborative team. This is not a BA going into his cubicle, looking it out, and just working on himself for the next 600 hours to write out a 60-page document. This should be a collaborative effort. You're working with the PM, you're working with cross-functional teams, you're having access to your customers, you have access to your stakeholders. And this is an exercise you do together. So if you guys are doing it together, then this is how a PM as a BA, you're collaborating on that mission. You understand what it means, and so you work together to help provide these workshops to do these objectives and stories and tasks, and you're building them out and more and more and more. And before you know it, it ends up being this whole thing. It's like it's a lot. But you can at least feel confident that the tasks that I've written up here are aligned to the mission. Great, I can feel good about that. Oh my gosh, this is so much. How do I manage this? How do I organize it? How do I make sense of it? Honestly, those little things right there, they're looking like monsters with teeth, looking back at me, staring at me, going, so you can feel overwhelmed, especially as a BA. I have had this question. Someone will randomly come up to me, hey, you know requirement 43.7.1? I have some questions about that. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. You don't want to have that deer in the headlights feeling, right? You can have a Excel spreadsheet and some kind of master database to manage all this, but it can still feel overwhelming as a single BA. So what I'd like to move towards is you got this most analysis to help identify other tasks, wipe that away, and instead come up with a more product-based model for your organization. If you have any say in this, if you can have any say in how your program is organized, tell them to move towards a product-based model. And this is the reason why. You have product A, they're going to have a statement as to what their say is in the mission. And they're really going to have an idea of what our product tangibly has an impact to this mission. Hence, when they realize what they're going to be involved with, they have an idea of what their objectives are going to be. These are the specific objectives within our product that has a concise and clear delineation to its mission. So the product owns those objectives. They become the sole proprietor of it. And hence, within that product team, you have a number of team members that comes up with a PO, Scrum Master, a BA, as well as the entire cross-functional team that could be made up of developers and testers. You have a BA within that product team. And that's the important thing. I stress that a lot. A lot of people think, oh no, we just need a BA at the program level, the project level. A BA at the product level is essential to make this work. So then they become responsible in building out the objectives. They write out the stories, they write out the tasks, and then they can become sole proprietors of running those through the entire project. And there are some situations where they own a story or own an objective, but they have to cross-collaborate with another product. Hey, we own this story, but we need help from you to accomplish this objective. Or, hey, there's some tasks here we need you to build upon. So moving to this product model should be a strong argument as to why a transformation project is going to be much more better. Because then you as a BA, if I just have to learn about product B, that's all I got to learn about. Because the other BA is going to worry about product C. You still have a BA in a supervisory role that can kind of help and make sure that things are prioritized and organized in a very good way. But a BA inside our product setup is very important. Here's an example that I have. So this is a large organization that had a major transformation that was doing a massive change across brand marketing and their major big e-commerce site that earns them multi-million dollars, every month. Hence, it was very important to get this organized. And you can see at the very top, I have the program team, right? So this makes up of a sponsor, a steering committee, and basically the program manager has basically them being responsible of steering this program. They have our project. And they basically become the onus of that. And then underneath that, inside the red box, I have the specific product teams, right? They become responsible for that product, and they're the ones that are actually running everything through. And you can see I have a product owner, Scrum Master, BA, Dev, QA, within each one of those silos. And then outside of that, completely outside of that, is your run the business operation, supporting, operating, reporting, and they're doing everything outside of that. So keeping those things separate was really important. But as you can see, this requires a lot of manpower, If you do a massive transformational program, that's what you need, manpower. I don't care what kind of tools and processes or structures you have in place. If you don't have the manpower to make this happen, I'm sorry, the transformation is going to just kind of bubble through. Second, so the second methodology, how do you prioritize your work? We all heard some ideas of how to prioritize. And using Agile sort of as a means of doing that. So what I'd like to say is, how do you prioritize as a BA? When it comes down to it, pen to paper, finger to keyboard, what do I do? So you have to prioritize, right? We already heard this. You're trying to make sense of the trees from the forest, and you've got to figure out, okay, I've got this most analysis, I've got all my objectives, I've got all my which one do I work on first? Which one's the one that I need to do? So the methodology I like to do, before I do that, there's different ways to go with the prioritization. So there's different variables that are involved with prioritization. And I'm not going to get into all the different variables that are involved, because depending on what industry, what company, what public, private, or if you're a startup or something like that, there's many different variables how to measure and balance what you want to do. I want to just talk about two, and that's cost and benefit. That's really what it comes down to. You can talk to a finance accountant person, you can talk to anybody in engineering. This goes to a cost-benefit analysis. If you've done that, back in school, that's what it comes down to. So what I really want to do is a gold canvas board. That's what will enable you to help in providing that Cost-benefit analysis. Who's used a goal canvas board? Okay, it may be a different terminology over here, but it's basically taking a value and effort and putting it across on an axis, right? You got your value on the vertical, you got your effort on the horizontal, and you identify things that have high value and low effort. Those are the things that you want to go after, right? From that orange highlight area, you really want to prioritize those items and pursue those first and foremost. Why? They're the easiest things, the low-hanging fruit. Before you get the ladder to climb the tree, go grab the ones that are hanging off the lowest end of the tree. So if you do this, you end up building a quadrant, right? So you can split up your canvas board in a quadrant, and you basically have a do, defer, limit, and avoid. So obviously, again, upper left is what you really want to concentrate. Those are your do's. Pursue those first and foremost. The other ones that have high value but require more effort, definitely keep those in consideration, but defer those. Limit the ones that have low value and little effort, and just avoid the ones that have low value and high effort. So that's like an easy thing to kind of think about, but if you put it up on a board and actually try to measure these, it actually gives a testimony of which objectives to prioritize first. And then something I want to pick up on is that the Lean BA presentation they did is like, it press upon the unknowns. Consider your unknowns. Don't ignore them, don't be fearing them, don't be tabling them and putting in the parking lot. We'll consider those later, and then it never happens, right? Your unknowns are basically, hey, this has high business value, but I'm not really certain about the effort. Should we really put up on the board? Yes. Hey, this has a low effort and it really is easy to do. I had a developer, I talked to him real quick. He says he can get this done in 10 minutes. Is it worth doing? I don't know. Let's put up on the board and find out. So do this exercise again, cross-collaborative, on your team. And make sure this is something you put up on your wall. So right against your mission, you have a goal canvas board for your product, and you list out all these things. And these are post-it notes. These are not printed things that you printed up and one and stuck and done. Because the fact is that you're going to put up a post-it note, it's going to have a high value at some time, and then a month later it's like, hey, this wasn't as important as we thought. So it has to have the ability to move, right? We all use post-it notes if you're an agile. I mean, 3M is probably making caboodles of money off of us now. So use these post-it notes like that, right? This is a goal canvas board, should be constantly looked at. As you do your sprint retrospective, groom your goal canvas board and revisit it and go, hey, you know what, that thing that we said was low importance, I just saw a competitor do it. And the consumers bought it up, they gobbled it up. Maybe we should put a higher business value on it and maybe consider it. So here's an experiment that I had with another company. We put our goal canvas board together, we had our unknowns, and we basically slotted this out. Our team basically prioritized the leftmost quadrant, and then we put everything else and prioritized the backlog based upon how this goal canvas board was looking. Now the unknowns, what do we do with those? What do you do with an old goal canvas board? As the previous presentation I alluded to, you need to experiment. If you have a testing team, a test and target team, an A/B team, I highly, highly recommend that get them to look at this canvas board and help drive experimentation, right? If you've got something of high value, but you have no idea the effort, let them try to figure out, okay, let's see if it's worth doing. Get it out to our customers. We'll do a very small POC of this. We'll really kind of get it out to market. It will touch maybe 10% of our market, but the whole point is get to see it and see how impactful and helpful it is. All right, so I got you to think about the scope of work. I got you to prioritize it. Now we're moving forward, we're all chugging along, things are going well, I got my road path ahead of me, I know exactly what I need to work on. Uh-oh, I got a fork in the road. Now I don't mean a blocker, I don't mean an impediment, I don't mean a technological thing that I just can't overcome. I'm talking a fork. You have a decision to make, right? And it's not necessarily yours as a BA, it could be something more at the tertiary level, right down to the technical team, or it could be something more of a leadership level. Hey, you guys didn't think about this. What do we do? How do we address this? How do we move forward? I don't want to get stymied. We got to get moving. We got to keep the team productive. So I use something called RAPID. Anybody use this? Okay. Again, maybe a different terminology, but RAPID is a decision-making framework. And it basically the importance of the decision-making framework is that it doesn't tell you how to make a decision. It tells you who's involved in making a decision. Because that's the important thing here. When it comes to decisions, especially in major, large organizations, we're not impeded by ability to think. We have the faculties as a human being to make decisions. That's what evolved us, right? If I can circle back to Charles Darwin. It's not about how to come to the decision. It's about who's involved, who can make the authority, and then press the green button and let's move on. Because what's happened in many organizations is like, I don't think that's my responsibility, that's his. No, let him answer that. So the thing is, if you know exactly who's responsible for the decision, it can be done very, very quickly. So drawing up this framework at the very get-go is very important. So the first role you have is a recommender. This is a person who basically may have come up with this fork, and he realizes, oh man, I don't know which way to go. So he could be the initiator. He may have some preference as to which option to pursue, but the fact is that this person is well-versed on the challenge and needs to bring it up. Next person is the agree. Okay, the agree can play the devil's advocate. He or she can provide an opposing side that the recommender didn't think about. So having someone or more than one person on the agree is definitely important. Perform is the executioner. Probably the wrong word. But the one who basically says that I'm going to get this done. Once we get the decision, it could be you as a BA, okay, I know exactly what requirement, or a developer saying, hey, we know exactly what the requirement is now, build it this way, right? So perform is basically enacting once the decision's made. Input is probably much more what I think a BA's role is going to be in. As your sort of specialty, as being analytical and being able to review things, your input and insights is going to be very important. So hence you collect, coalesce information, organize it, and try to put it in a way where you can put the pros and cons and the risks, and you make it very organized to the point where they understand what each option is. And then decide. The person who's ultimately responsible in making the decision. Once he has all the input, once he has all the people who is in agreement, and ultimately then you know, the recommenders, he or she is going to disagree with that, but the decider is the one that basically flips the switch. And all this encompasses around a golden circle of trust, right? If you don't have trust in the framework working, then this is going to collapse. If you don't have trust in the people who are in those roles, the recommender, the agreeer, then this is going to fall apart. So that goes to my key things as to what's make this work. Trust is first and foremost. 2, there's only one decider. Only one person holds the key. The person who's making the decision doesn't necessarily have to be someone in authority. It doesn't have to be the VP of this. It doesn't have to be the head of that. The decider could be the product owner because he's the best equipped and understands the impact and implications of what he's going to do. And the agreeer could be someone in the VP role. It's like, yeah, I see what you're saying. I agree with that. And then thirdly, the next important thing is the performer. He or she executes immediately once the decision is made. No dawdling, no buffeting about, it's not rabid, BID. You know, you're basically made the decision, you perform. So if you have this rapid framework well in advance, when you come across a challenge and you have to come up with multiple options, you can quickly put the rapid framework to use. You come up with the option, you go ahead and agree with it, green lit, go. Oh wait, there's consequences of that. And from those consequences, another challenge. Then there's more options. The whole point is that you keep providing throughput and you keep moving forward by having this framework in place. Now the framework is not one for one. You can have a framework for your product, you can have a framework for a customer-centric decision, you can have a framework for UX. It's not one size fits all, but you try to provide enough accountability to try to have a rapid framework for as many challenges that you may think you may come across. So here's an example that I had at BNZ where we had a type of API call, we need to come up with a security suggestion. So I had these rapid roles already in place. All I had to do was make this nice, pretty presentation. Here's our problem statement, here's the options, get the recommenders to spiel out which option they prefer, and then at the end of the meeting, the output was the decision was made. Now, if you come out with the meeting, it's like, no decision was made, there's a lot of argumentation, great, that's fine. But continue to deliberate and debate, and use the rapid framework as a means of making sure that there's continual conversation about it. It doesn't get stymied. Great, if we come up to a decision, let's wait a week from now, I'll get some more input, more analysis, and we'll come back. And then the next important thing is that if your team is waiting on the decision, don't make them wait, right? It's all about acting in the right place. If you need to kind of take things out, remove them from the sprint and say, guys, we're going to put this and we're going to put it into a rapid, and I'll let you know when into a sprint. So how do you bring all three of these together? Right? So now I'm going to actually use some use cases that I actually come across in using these three methodologies together. So case one, making sure your mission is still relevant. As a major transformation project, one of the dangerous things that I did tell you about was that you end up getting into sort of your own world, right? So you've got a major transformation project, so you have to deliver on it. So the challenge is that sometimes you get lost in that. You enclose yourself, it's like, I've got to be thinking about this project and nothing else. That's fine. But the danger is if you don't resurface and check back to reality, you're really missing yourself out. There's one project here within New Zealand that I heard about. They basically went behind their closed doors. 2 years later, they came out with the products like, yeah, that's not relevant anymore. That's not applicable. You're going to have to go back to the drawing board. It's not going to be useful for us. That's a danger. So how do you do that? So first and foremost, making sure your goal canvas board is relevant, right? So that's what I said. You have that goal canvas board. You're always looking back at it. You constantly use that as a means of charting a course. As you're using your sprint goal and you're outlining your sprint plan, look back at your goal canvas board and say, is that still relevant? Is that still the highest value and the lowest effort? Is that what we want to do for this next sprint? Second, forge ahead and make sure you're clearly outlining your decision. The thing is, if you're checking back and making sure your mission is still relevant, there's going to be questions at the leadership level as to figuring out, are we doing the right thing? Have a rapid framework in place to make sure that your team is constantly cognizant and talking about and having the conversation of, is this mission correct? And if it's not, get to a rapid model of figuring out what our options are. Third, have a trajectory check. Check back often by using most analysis, right? So you have your most analysis, you're trying to gather the information to make sure that it's aligning to your mission. But if the objective is not aligned to the mission anymore because the mission's changed, have those checks and balances, and you as a BA can help provide that dissemination. You can go in and say, hey, this objective was probably valid maybe 2 months ago, but not so much now. Is it worth doing? Second case, a new idea is pushed forward. You're a transformation project. You are the fruit of all that's good. You're going to change everything for the better. Hence, you become an incubation and a great possibility where people are going to invite ideas and say, hey, can you guys do this as well? Can you guys do this as well? It's only one more thing. It's not scope creep. No, after a while, it's scope onslaught. They beat you on it. So the thing is, new ideas as BAs can sometimes frighten us. Totally get it. But the thing is, we need to be receptive to it. That's our first and foremost job. So if I didn't say that, as part of my 3D methodologies, as a BA, you're not like, oh yeah, hey, that's a great idea. But let's scrutinize this and make sure we're going about it the right way. So use most analysis. Look at your objective that a new idea may be providing and see how well aligned is it to the mission. Give it some measurement value. Give it some objectivity. It's like, yeah, indirectly it's about 50% there or something. Just give it some idea of how well aligned it is to the mission. Next, put it on the goal canvas board. Even though if it's not aligned to the mission at all, at least measure the cost benefit. Go ahead and do the exercise. At least go to your team and say, hey, this new idea just came from me, from Senior VP. I can't say no to him. So it's not aligned to the mission at all, but how much effort do you think it is? Can you put your finger to the wind and just tell me? Then lastly, get the rapid model to find out if this is worth pursuing. You've measured whether or not it's aligned to the mission. You measure the cost, you measure the benefit, bring those variables in, get your rapid team to work together and discuss it, hash it out, and figure out, hey, is this worth doing? Is it not? If it is, let's pursue it. So here's a summary of the three things I want to present. The breadth of work is unclear or is undetermined. put a fence around it, set your perimeter with most analysis. Second, if you're lost on which things you want to work on first, prioritize the work with a goal canvas board. And thirdly, you're stuck on who can make traction on a decision, use RAPID and try to keep moving forward. And that's really what I want to send this message away. Use these three methodologies, mostly in transformation projects, but even in your current project. If you can go home and take it with you, great. These slides will be available to you, so definitely refer back to them. But these practices are available. And that's me, guys. So if you want to learn more information about these analytical techniques, they're available on IABA, as well as some BA forums. So it's not new what I'm talking about. It does give a little agile twist to it, but I'm hoping you find these useful. Thank you very much.